Welcome back to SheCOMMERCE, where power women and real talk collide in the CPG world. How's it going, Jackie?
It is going some, Christina. How is it March? Because I'm sure it was only January 4th yesterday. How? How did we get
I
here?
am almost a quarter of the way through the year. Today's a special day. On a personal note, we want to wish you a very warm Mother's Day, as this weekend is when it's celebrated in the UK and Ireland, which is different from here in the States.
hmm
But you are an amazing mom of your twin boy and girl, Zoe and Eddie. And I just want to say the way that you show up here with your heart, your humor, your sassiness, your strength and all the things while, basically running the logistics operation back at home is so impressive. And I just want to take the time to wish you a very happy and well deserved Mother's Day. Mom Day. What do you call it there?
Mother's Day. Mother's Day. Oh, Christina,
Mother.
that is so sweet. Ladies and gentlemen, that was not rehearsed. That was Christina straight from the heart. Caught me completely by surprise. Thank you. That was so kind. And coming from such a super mom like you, high praise indeed.
So, what's going on in the world? What are we talking about?
Well, my God, let's not talk about what's going on in the world because instant depression with, oh my goodness, everything, everything,
Yes,
everything.
let's skip that. But
I'd love to riff on a little bit is
yeah.
still the Women on Boards project that we discussed with Kirsten and Cassie.
Come on.
Damn, right?
Right? Such amazing women, such an amazing cause, right? Such amazing progress they've made. It's just phenomenal
It is. It is. And I
and
can't
such an
wait
important
for
thing.
this. And I can't wait for this to be to go global. They've
Yeah.
achieved so much in such a short time.
Yeah.
These two, they could power a small country. I'm not kidding. With that power and energy,
Yeah.
just easy.
Yes. It is very timely because Nielsen IQ just recently published a report at the beginning of March arguing that women are shaping category growth, channel shifts, and brand momentum. And they say that roughly two-thirds of women's CPG spend flows through mass and grocery, and that women are more likely to use coupons, shop discounts, wait for sales, and compare private label to national brands. So this report shows that women are increasingly driving wellness, self-care, and life stage specific demand, including menopause related needs. So I know this is a topic we discussed about why women on boards is so critical because we're representing the consumer, the shopper, and we are the audience. So we need that voice at the table to be represented, right?
I have a
But I
question.
think, women are not a side brief in CPG. We are the economic engine.
We absolutely are. We are the V8
Yes.
of the car, right? Without the engine, all you got is
Our
a
health.
pretty shell and four wheels. That's it.
Not going anywhere. Not
We
moving
are the vroom
forward.
vroom, baby. We're the vroom vroom.
Buckle up. So yeah, I listen, I think it just reinforces what they said. So it was very timely when we saw that. And I think, it's much bigger than International Women's Day or Month energy.
Mhm.
It's really about brands understanding this very critical cohort and having very clear value architecture because we see through the BS. All right. So that's not
Mm,
going to work. You can't like pink it and shrink it anymore. You need to really understand us and speak our language and make sure that all parts are connected. Your digital shelf content is reinforcing that, and you have more honest innovation around those real life stages and real household dynamics that are happening in the world around us.
100%. As you say, International Women's Day and Women's History Month all in March, and British Mother's Day all together in 1 month.
Yes.
They are huge and it is necessary, but it's not just about performative pink cupcakes, right? This is about let's pause and let's reflect on what it is that women are bringing to the table. In this case, all the goddamn money, right? All the purchasing decisions. Nielsen IQ literally did a report on me The
Mhm.
sales, waiting for the sales, cross-referencing against brands. This is what we do. Wellness,
Mhm.
menopause, oh, menopause stuff. Research, 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 what's good for the menopause, what's good for the hair, what's good
Yeah.
for the skin, all of that stuff. Literally, it is a report on my spending habits and my research habits. And I'm every woman, right? And if that is every woman,
Oh,
it's
that's
not.
Whitney.
Come on.
Well,
God damn it,
such a good
Christina.
song. See? I'm sorry. You did it. You said it. That was you. Just let the record show to the audience that Jackie dangled that carrot. Okay? Thanks.
I plead guilty, Your Honor. And yet, through all of this data and information that is out there stating all of these facts, 10% representation in all the brands that we as women are purchasing from
Mm-hmm. On their boards. Correct.
on their boards. Exactly.
Shocking. Shocking.
Think how much more spend there would be by women with those brands if these were messages or ideas or campaigns or strategies that really focused on
Mm-hmm.
what women want, like the movie, What Women Want.
Yes. What women want.
Do you remember that movie? Mel
I
Gibson and
do.
Helen Hunt?
Yes. Mel Gibson.
And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
do you remember how brilliant he became
It
when he
was
could start
brilliant.
listening?
He
He could start
tapped
listening.
into the mind of a woman. Yes.
Absolutely. And that's when he started winning campaigns and started winning awards, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's like you're a woman." Mm-hmm. You know what I'm
Well,
saying? So I mean, it's time.
yep.
It is time.
Yeah, definitely. TikTok, let's go. So
Well,
speaking of women, who I know you have some amazing women to acknowledge and congratulate.
I got me some grade A lap song Souchong, baby. So today we are celebrating one of my absolute a promotion with one of my absolute favorite brands because they are so sassy and audacious and cheeky and human with their campaigns and their ads. So we're going to say well done and kudos to Carly Natalizia, who is being promoted from Chief Digital Officer to Chief Commercial Officer at Gymshark. I mean, this happened in February
Yay!
2026, but it's still being actively discussed in leadership news. So, Carly, we're
Mm.
so happy for you. Kudos. This is huge news. And in more tea, because we have all the tea today,
Mhm.
Cheryl Ha has gone from chief marketing, or is, I should say, the chief marketing and digital officer overseeing
Mhm.
e-commerce at Saks Global. Again, a February 2026 promotion, but still a huge deal in leadership news and actively discussed today.
Mm.
And the thing is, the reason it matters is because luxury retail, that last bastion of legacy, is increasingly
Mhm.
merging brand marketing with e-commerce platforms. Her
Mhm.
role explicitly looks at and oversees end-to-end digital and e-commerce experience across the retailer's
Mm.
ecosystem. That's huge. So congratulations, Cheryl
I mean,
Han.
both of these roles are signaling. Yes, congratulations. I think both these roles are signaling this greater shift, right? That no more managing just the silo or your channel, but the how it needs to be embedded in order to
Mhm.
win and thought of more holistically as part of the total ecosystem, right?
Yeah,
Seeing these, it's encouraging, right? I love it. I think it's the right move. So kudos to them.
absolutely. Absolutely. Now, this segues neatly into who we're having on today as our fabulous royal guest.
Yes, and it is rightfully fitting that we are featuring her as part of our Women's International Day because she is a woman to be reckoned with, and we're very excited to welcome this queen to our court. So, Jackie,
Today's guest didn't just crack the e-commerce code. She rewired the whole damn motherboard. She's the woman brands call when their digital strategy needs CPR or a glow up. Is she a badass? Oh no. She's the queen that badasses learn from, who has turned clicks into empires, chaos into clarity, and test and learn into a full-blown lifestyle. Aisha Khan, welcome to SHeCOMMERCE, where we spill the tea, drag the buzzwords, and celebrate the women actually moving the money.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me. What an intro. I'm going to have you join me on all my calls and
Yes.
introduce me this way because what a pick me up on a foggy Monday morning. Thank you so much.
I do
Yes.
cartwheels too, by the way.
Yes, Queen. We've been ready for this one. I think this is coming full circle for us because we congratulated you on your new role on our very first official episode. And now here we are. So this is a real full circle moment for us. And we're so excited to have you. We've obviously worked together. So I know in real life that it's true that you are the powerhouse that everyone believes you to be. So we're so excited just to continue to hear from you and dig in with you. And I know that you are not a BSer. You're going to tell us the real truth, even if we're not ready for it personally. So here's our hopefully spicy enough opening question for you. We're just going to dive right in.
Let's do it.
What's the biggest e-commerce lie brands still believe? And what myth would you happily set ablaze on this podcast?
And don't give us the
Um,
LinkedIn filtered version, okay?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
okay,
want
I'm
the
going to give you
Hold
the
back.
the version that's the
unfiltered
11
LinkedIn version. No,
p.m.
no.
Yes.
I love that. I'll keep it straight. I think right now there's many. I feel like the one right now that I feel like will really move the needle is that to grow in digital commerce, it's not just retail media that's going to get you there. So if you want to grow on Amazon, spending in Amazon media is not the only way to grow. Same with Walmart, Target, etc., everywhere. And I think right now there's a little bit of a disconnect or just maybe a hope and a prayer that like if you want to grow on a channel, you're not hitting your growth rates. You just got to put more money in the retail media network and it'll solve itself. And I think that is a big myth that I would love to set fire to today. Like light the match, pour the gasoline,
Done.
and just set that ablaze. So thanks for the opportunity to lay that out there.
Hey, so the next question we have is really around your bold moves. And this is one of my favorite phrases. The risk you're risking not taking the risk, right? Your career is full of bold pivots. Brand builder, agency whisperer, digital fixer, professor, speaker, all the while being this incredible powerhouse. Which moment felt like your, "Oh, shit, this better work" leap? And how did you steady yourself?
Interesting. I feel like that every day, every single day, it's kind of like this better work. And there's a lot of being in an agency role is pulling on all your previous experiences and putting them all together for your client. And I feel like what I love about the role is that I get to do that. I feel like some of it though is you do have to figure out how to toe the line between coming up with data, hard data for your clients of like, let's do this, let's test and learn, let's experiment. Then there's another tier of more advanced measurement where we can measure things, incrementality studies, models we can create that are, not quite the full MMM. We have to wait months and months, and there's more rapid ways of doing it. Then there's, yeah, sure, maybe we want to spend a lot of money and be able to wait to make these bigger budget decisions to make these changes. And then there's the trust me, I've seen this works. Like
Mhm.
you have to figure out where to, when to play what card. And obviously where you can have data, you should always provide that. And some of it's just like, I've seen this before at so many different places and it always comes back with this sort of direction. And so this is where we
Mm.
need to go. And so right now, again, going back to what I said earlier around it's not just retail media that wants to grow. I do have a hypothesis that social is so tied to retail. Like everything that's happening in culture, it's what's tying to your demand at stores. And so it's hard because retail media networks are so great at what they do and they're so great at that conversion and converting that demand. generating that demand. While there's some tactics and channels like the Amazons and the Walmarts in particular and Targets have like so many great capabilities in that space, they're still not, they don't own TikTok or Meta or Facebook or an Instagram or WhatsApp, right? So you still need to look at other channels to create retail media demand. So it's almost like all media needs to be driving demand at your retailers, right? That's the point. Everything you do in marketing needs to drive sales. And so starting to pivot that mindset and say, hey, like if you want to grow on Amazon, maybe let's look at national media. Or let's look at something with we were doing in PR and even outside media. How do we get your earned and your PR work, that media to work hard for us at retail? So that's just a new way of thinking. And that's my current, it's kind of like a new playbook, right? That we are writing at WPP. And so that's fun. And that's my little bit of like, this better work
Yeah.
moment. But I think it'll pay dividends for brands that are willing to lean
sure.
into that. And it has.
But I think to your point is leaning into understanding the data, right? Because we know people don't shop in isolated channels. I mean, we've known that. That's where omnichannel came from. So it's just commerce media. It's the holistic like ecosystem of all those places, channels, disruption points that can drive to a conversion. Yeah, I love how you phrase that. It's like all commerce, all media versus just one channel.
Yeah. Like
So
to your point, what's commerce media? Commerce media is now almost all your media is commerce
all
media.
media, yeah. Where does it start and end?
I mean, the number of times I'm very weak, but the number of times I have purchased, made purchases because I have been led by the nose through something I've seen on Instagram or TikTok, sometimes even LinkedIn. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeding, and I know I'm feeding the beast.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Okay. Sometimes we need to give in to those temptations, Jacqui. I'm here for it. It's okay. So speaking about starting the fire, give us maybe a moment where that playbook and when you're talking about like this risk you're taking and where you're placing your bets, maybe where you wobbled a little bit or, it nearly caught fire. What's that moment where you're like, okay, I'm going to place my bet exactly on this and it's going to either tell me to keep going or pivot into, I don't know, pottery full time? Like, what's that challenge and how did you turn it into a win?
This is a great one. I'm going to pull on an experience a couple years ago. I was at a beauty incubator, and this was when Meta was going through their changes. I want to say this was 4 years ago, so 2022. I was trying to scale a D2C beauty brand using Meta, like so many other brands. And I just remember being like, well, this has to work. We got a new agency on board. We're like, this is going to solve everything. Like, quickly learned, I mean, it got to a point where I was looking at it, like, it just wasn't working. Like, even the new agency, like, couldn't get it to scale profitably. We weren't figuring it out. We were in the campaigns, we were restructuring them. We were just touching everything then way too much, right? Which is also, you're not supposed to do with your campaigns. And ultimately, like, just wobble. Just like I remember having to present to the board and just being like, here's what performance was, like, we're working on it. And then being really frustrated. Ultimately, what I learned from that is like, not to ever forget the role of creative, because it actually wasn't what we were doing in the media. Our media was at, like, our campaigns were fine, our targeting was fine. It was the creative has fatigued, and like we were spending so much time with the media agency and not enough time with content and creative. And I think that was the big learning for me that I'll never forget is like creative is still 60% of performance when it comes to non-search media. And even now in search media, there's video and assets. I do think that was a big learning for me of like, you can become so blind, right? Put your blinders on to just like what the issues are. You really have got to take a step back in moments like that. And so I try to take that with me today and try to be like, it might not be the thing that's the most obvious issue.
That's a great reminder. And, garbage in, garbage out. And I think it links back to many of the things we talk about lately, even the use of AI and spending the time up front to really diagnose the problem before jumping right into action, like the importance of that. So thank you for that valuable reminder.
Aisha, with everything that you've done, and again, learning from all of these experiences, what would you What kind of advice would you give to somebody coming into to women coming into e-commerce and who want to lead these bold transformations, but to your point, they feel suffocated by legacy, by distraction, by the noise, by expectations, family expectations, and the be smaller messaging that, I mean, let's face it, as women, we've been fed since birth. How do you advise women on that?
Yeah, this is why I love this podcast so much. So, first of all, I do listen to you guys religiously. I love how you're not afraid to get into, the personal. It's not so much personal. It's almost like it's the real talk behind what drives professional performance, which is personality and style and leadership style and expectations of women in general. I think psychological nature of just how to succeed in at work and in e-commerce is very reflective of human nature. And so I appreciate this so much of getting to talk about this, because it can be so easy to just say like, be bold, drive transformation, and you'll meet your results. And like that is so not true. It couldn't be further from the truth sometimes. But I think the biggest things are, make sure your goals are realistic is the first piece of advice. Like, I've dived into roles and responsibilities, just chasing money or title and just getting really excited by those things and just wishing I had taken a step back to say, is the role actually set up for success? Are they going to be ready for someone like me? I think knowing
They're
who I
never ready for
am,
someone like you, first
they're
of all.
never ready. They're
Never
never
ready.
ready. I
Never
think
ready.
now I'm at a point in my life where I am very straightforward with, I may not be the right person for this role, even though I think it's a great role and I could do a good job, because this is who I am. And this is what I would bring, right? So if you're not ready for someone who's going to lead with a lot of transparency very early, especially in turnaround dynamics, and e-com's always a turnaround dynamic. There's always not enough growth. There's always more, more, more. It'll never be enough. That's any sales role in general, but in commerce, I think there's definitely right. We don't have 30 years of history setting of how to set goals or et cetera, right? And it's just changing so much. So I do think digital commerce versus in-store commerce, they're both equal pressures, but I think in CPG digital commerce, just there's a lot of misconceptions. And so that gap between reality and the expectations can be really big. And so I think not being afraid to know who you are first and what your strengths and your weaknesses are. Like, sometimes my biggest strength is I will rally to a goal, but sometimes my weakness is I will just do that in the time that I have. But sometimes that means I can't bring everyone along in that journey. And so sometimes peers, managers, like, they're just not being brought along, and they're just like, whoa, 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 you're moving too fast. You're sending this email. You're talking to this person. You need to let me know. You need to bring me along. And I'm like, okay, okay. Sometimes I need to like almost bring my leadership along and like who I am, bring my peers along now in that of like, I'm sorry if I do certain things. It's not like to cut
Intentional,
you
yeah.
out. It's just so I can meet these things on time. I think especially in agency world, making sure that the business dynamics are explained to my agency peers. Because again, national media, they're not assigned a goal every month of sales. Like, they don't understand sometimes what that pressure is like and what it takes to deliver that. Um, Sometimes the clients, helping them also understand, like, hey, maybe the reason I'm setting boundaries so much on my team is not so because we're lazy and we don't want to do the work, but because in order to deliver against your sales goals, the core work needs to get done. And like, that takes a lot more time than you think. And like, I think educating people. So I think my advice is like, more in, especially in commerce, if you want to be a leader, you have to, as early as possible, set the expectations up for who you are, what you're going to do. That is atypical of the rest of your organization. And if you don't get that support, you just have to realize it's going to be a tough time and you're going to get your hand slapped. And you either are going to be okay with that, or you're going to get frustrated by that. And you're either going to leave the organization on your own, or you'll be pushed out of the organization because the organization is going to be like, whoa, you're way too much of a renegade. You're not playing by our rules, But if you could set those expectations up front, I think it gets better and easier. And I think the agency world, it's been good for me to learn after making many mistakes and not doing that. I'm now able to do that. And I think bring my peers along in that journey and my management. And I think that sponsorship is the most important thing of like, not just having, and this is my mistake too, I've always thought having like one senior leader was enough. I was like, oh, I got one senior leader. He's the president. He's going to have my back or she's going to have my back and it's going to be fine. Everyone's going to fall in line. And I realized that that's not the case. Like you need to have at least 2 or 3 sponsors, senior sponsors in multiple different organizations before really delving into, I think, a role in a commerce leadership role, because it's never, no matter how senior that person is, you're just going to start to feel like an outcast. You're going to start to, right, like create a lot of friction in your organization. So I think, again, just like doing the rounds before the role, just being like, I'm so sorry. Like, here are the things I've got to do. I've got to do quickly. I know this and this has been done historically before. I may at some point be proposing something different, like a whole new sales strategy process, a whole new forecasting process. I might be grabbing more media dollars, right? Like going to your national media team being saying, I'm so sorry, but like we may need to actually point some more dollars here. Not now, but maybe soon. And just saying like, right, hey, I want to work on that together. I want to work on that with you, and just giving them a heads up. Again, I've just learned so much about it's hard. It's really, really hard. And you're almost guaranteed to be set up for failure and you're never going to make everyone happy. And I need to be okay with that now.
Yeah.
It's like, you just,
Yeah.
yeah.
That literally this podcast, every interview is a learning moment. So much of what you just said, Aisha, has resonated. The whole setting your stall and, stating who you are, because, let's face it, or I should say, I will be honest here. And I'll say that when I first started out working to, to not that long ago, my working habit or persona was very much all in all the time, the whole time, and it was a case of boundary. What boundary? We don't need boundaries. We're family. And we're not. We need those boundaries for our own sanity too, right? And for our own development and to allow us that objectivity. And to hear you say that again today is really powerful. And I hope that people coming through the ranks or looking at coming through the ranks are paying close attention. Her name is Aisha Khan, people.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Well, and I just love the reminder about you need to be true to yourself and you know yourself best, and don't be persuaded. Sometimes, I mean, I have been in the past too, right? By the offer, the money, the title, whatever, the sparkliness of it all. But if you're trying to fit a square into a round hole and you know yourself, like, are you really set up for success? Is this truly going to make you happy? Are you going to be able to make an impact here? I think those are critical questions that especially women probably overlook and skip over just to lean in, and or even seeing a problem. We talked about this up front, like wanting to fix it, right? We're fixers. So it's going to be different when I'm in the role. Well, probably not, but I think that's so important. And it comes with time. Like you said, you know yourself and you also leave little room for interpretation. I think that was my takeaway too, that, hey, this might come across as this way. I'm going to tell you up front, like, this is who I am and it's not personal and I'm going to drive towards this, or I move quickly. And if I am leaving you behind, it's not intentional. Just, give me that nudge and I'll happily bring you with me. Get in front of it. I love that.
Yeah. It's not easy, but it's definitely needed. So yeah, I think that really honest conversation with yourself and then others really, really helps. Because you're gonna, you're gonna create fiction when you're creating change. Like any change management role, this is quite normal. I think, that's really important. And knowing yourself is really protecting yourself, because you're going to get, no matter what, there's someone that's going to say they're aggressive and and there's so many times where I ask myself, like, if a man was in this role, would they say
I
the
hate
same
that word.
things? Like sieve or tornado or right. And some of it's just like, some of it could be fair. Again, I ask myself sometimes, did I do that? Or could I have brought other people on? Maybe. But most of the time, especially now, I do try to go out of my way to make sure that's not the case. And then when it does, I'm just like, if I didn't do that, we wouldn't have gotten XYZ, which which would have been detrimental to our goals. And so sometimes there's a little bit of ask for forgiveness later. And again, you just
Yeah.
have to do your due diligence if that's not all the time. And that's not how, if it's once in a while, it's going to happen. And so
Mhm.
to forgive yourselves in those moments, like when
Yeah.
people do come at you and interpret you a different way, you just have to know who you are and that the right people know who you really are. And I think that's the piece,
Important.
again, creating that sponsorship is really important.
I love that. You earlier, when you were talking through all this, you also talked about having sponsors and not just the one, a few. So tell us a little bit, Aisha, about the allies. Who put your name out there in those rooms where you weren't yet invited to be a part of? Who taught you the difference between support and the women who clap for you publicly versus those who really support you, the ones who are like all performative and
Mhm.
compete privately? Who showed up for you in a way that really changed the game?
I have a lot of people who have really shown up for me, and I'm really, really lucky for that. And I think, especially early and mid in my career, it really just is like it's not just like if you work hard, like people will recognize it and come. I think I always did a good job of going out of my way to like network and make relationships outside of just working projects. And then
Mhm.
recognizing that sometimes there's a vibe and sometimes there isn't. Like,
Mhm.
sometimes there are really senior leaders in prominent positions who you'll connect with and they're nice and they're kind and they'll offer advice. And then there's others you meet with that you're like, there's just a connection. There's just a vibe. Like you can't explain it, but right away you're just like, you're someone I want to be around. And usually on the other way, like you'll get that connection too, where if you reach out to them, even if they're senior, they'll answer your invites. They'll see you in the hallway and talk to you. Like there's just little like signs that people who are more
Mhm.
senior, like there's mentors and there's sponsors. Mentors are just like anyone who will spend time with you who are senior, they'll mentor you. Sponsors are similar, but they're just, again, it's like, it's hard to I'll just keep using the word vibe. Like there's just a connection. There's like,
Mhm.
and it could be from anything. It could just be your background. It could be from your race. It could be for being another female. It could be for just it could be just you both like the same band or the same sport, like whatever that is for females. I've had many males be sponsors for me in my career. Shri Rajagopalan was my first real sponsor where I
Love
was in
straight.
procurement and I was like, I really want to be in e-com sales. And he's like, you're in procurement. He's like, no. I was like, please, though, like put me in a change management role. And he
Put me in,
did. I
coach.
bugged him and I bugged him and I bugged him. And finally, I was like, come on, man. I'm like, we're both brown. You got to help me out. He's like, no, no, no. Then finally, he's like, oh, this girl, fine. And again, you just have to play. You have to find that connection point and like be unapologetic about playing it up. And that's what I did. I was like, help me out. And I did a great job for him and I worked above and beyond for people will take a chance on you. Usually people work up, above and beyond for them. And I've always done that when people go out of their way. Like even when I went to agency world, I had
Mhm.
I had two female bosses actually at the time who were incredible. One was Shannon Reed. The other was Amy Lanzi. And they truly went to bat for me as well and showed me that like just being a manager is one thing, but being like a life coach and a sponsor and,
Mhm. Yeah.
just people who go to bat for you even after you stop working for them says a lot. And where I'm working now, Sam Bukowski was my first manager here. I currently work for another woman, Lauren Lavin, who is our North America lead. Shout out to her. Like they're just amazing. Like they're just really people you look up to and you're just like, wow, like, and they're also women who pull up other women. And so now I pay it forward. But you just have to find the connection. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
there, and you have to be honest with yourself if it's not.
I mean, all great points, and anything can give you that connection. Like you said, it's that vibe, right? And then you build from there. So, how are you just mentioned this, like paying it forward. How do you show up for women rising behind you? Because you are that inspiration for many now as well. And that's a responsibility that I'm sure doesn't come lightly for you and you take very seriously. So anything you can share on that?
I appreciate that. I think about this all the time because, again, I've made a lot of mistakes too along the way. But I think now I've taken all the good, the bad, the ugly of my previous managers of what I've seen, and I put that into how I want to show up for others. And I think now the most important thing is actually just being in a spot where I can put my money where my mouth is and actually pull up people, promote people, give people a chance maybe before, it's a little bit early, communicating to others who are like, really? I don't know. I don't really see her in that. It's a little bit early, and just being really strong about being like, no, like that she's the right person for that role. She will show up. She will step up. I will personally coach her and get her there. I have seen her work in action, and leaving that sentence full stop and not having to keep explaining yourself. And I've had other women do that for me as well. And just being like, listen, whether or not she's ready right now, yes, maybe there was a fumble here. She is still the right leader. And so I take all of that into what I do and try to make the best decisions for my team and give them those opportunities to grow even before they're a little bit ready.
Oh
Yeah,
my
and
God,
I
I
love it.
love
I mean, yeah, go ahead, Jackie.
I just love that so much. I really, really love that.
Yeah. No, same. And one of my biggest pet peeves is when people use that as pushback. Well, they're not ready yet, or they don't have this one little bit of I'm like, if you know 100% how to do your job on day one, that's the wrong job for you. There needs to be stretch. There needs to be growth, right? And you need to come in. And I love that you offer yourself as that bridge to say, I'm going to help them get there, right? I'm going to hold me accountable to get them from here to here. But that's going to come once we give someone this opportunity. You can't get there without giving them that. So thank you for doing that. That's really important.
Yes,
That's
I
incredible.
appreciate feedback. So like I want that feedback, giving that feedback to others. And sometimes women are almost scared of giving other women feedback sometimes, like because it can get sensitive. But again, just like finding the right time and place and headspace is like so important. But you've got to be bold. So I'm very transparent about feedback. I try to give people feedback constantly because then it doesn't become like this like weird special moment of feedback. It's just
Awkward.
like always on. And I was like, hey, like, and I try to do it usually like, a sandwich approach. You're doing a great job. Here's an opportunity. Keep going, keep crushing. But like that's something I try to remember is it can be hard and awkward. But feedback is how people grow.
What's the most personal lesson your career has taught you in terms of, all these things we're talking about, power, resilience, making a big impact? And maybe that lesson didn't come from a win, but it came from, a failure or a moment that really knocked you down that you had to come back from.
Oh my God, I have many. Maybe for me, the big one was working for, I'll keep it general, but I did work for a manager at one point who definitely was like a narcissist. And working for a narcissist for a period of time will do damage to you, like literally, like it's like real trauma. And it takes about as much time as you've worked for that individual to undo that trauma, which again, I learned, and I have so lucky I have coaches and people in my life that have helped me through this, but who like really, he really broke me down. And like, again, just like after you hear so many times, like, you're this kind of person, you're this kind of way, here are your faults. And like, they just like, right. And their whole thing is pitting everybody against each other and all this stuff. You really start to internalize it. So I consider myself a strong person. I know who I am. And like, but there was a period of time where I was going through that like towards the end, I was like, maybe I am this and that, and I'm not meant for this. And like, I think personally, then afterwards, I struggled in roles because I was like still holding on to all that doubt that got created externally. I like internalized it. It took me a while. I finally like got it out of my system, and I'm like, no. I no. Look in the mirror, and I'm like, no. I'm a bad bitch. I got this. Like, it's
You
like
got it.
I know who I am again. Like, I don't know why I even did that, but it really did. It did some damage. I have to admit that, and it took me time to get over it. Again, I had to just forgive myself before it forgave that person. And I don't hold any ill will towards any, it happened. And I just took it as a lesson and moved on and became better for it. But that really was like something I needed to overcome through, again, connecting with people who know me, connecting with myself, doing a good job, getting some wins. But, I made some bad decisions afterwards because I wasn't in my full like power and my full headspace. So, now I'm there again. I'm happy to say that, but I try to recognize when others may not be coming from situations that are positive, or maybe they were working for someone toxic, and, I try to be the leader that gets them out of it, but it definitely takes time.
For sure. And don't let anyone knock that crown off your head. As you
Yes,
say.
exactly. It happens though. It happens,
It
and it's
does. It
okay.
does. It's
But I think
unfortunate.
it's very much I think as well. I mean, it does happen to males, of course, but I think it's also a female thing because we're so conditioned to do better, to please, to be good like the whole time. And if someone says, "Oh, you're not good," the first thing that you think is not, "What do you mean I'm not good? I'm phenomenal." The first thing you think is, "Oh, what do I need to do to be better? What can I do to make you happier?" And that's the thing, I mean, I'm trying to definitely not get my daughter to be like that. And she's got a little bit of sass going on there, which I mean, hard as a mother to deal with, but
Wonder where
fabulous.
she got it.
I don't, my husband, he's a very sassy woman.
Yes.
I hope he's not listening to this. But she's got the sass, and I'm loving this because that will hold her in good stead going forward, as opposed to, I'm not gonna lie, it took me time to say, actually, I am really good at what I'm doing, and you are not good at what you're doing. And this is the problem. I'm not the problem. You are, and I love that you are helping people through that now. It's so powerful. It's so powerful. Wow, so many things you
Yeah,
say
so
today, Aisha, is resonating hard.
it really is resonating. We've experienced that ourselves, and it is hard to come back from it. I think giving yourself the grace, like you talked about, to say, as much time as you had to deal with that, you're going to need time. It's not snap your fingers or
Yes.
change your job and it's over. There's that lingering effect. It does. It's unfortunate, but recognizing that and then investing that energy back into yourself and having that support around you, I think it's really important. And I think it's a great reminder for people who might be going through something like that themselves. So thank you
Yeah,
for sharing that and
of
being
course.
open.
Yeah.
Well, speaking about how much of a badass bitch you are, the next question is I'm eager to hear your answer. So, what's that song then that plays in your head when you are, hyping yourself up for the next pitch, negotiation, conference, stage, etc.? We know that this is going to be good. So,
I love that. So MIA, Bad Girls is one of them.
see,
Me and
good.
my best friend, like it's just for like a old college tune, but like that's a good one. That one always gets me like hyped up of like, bad girls do it well. Like that's right. Like,
Mhm.
that's how we roll. It's like, and it's not actually bad, but it's actually like, you're in your power. You know who you are, you're confident, you're bringing all of that energy. It's about supporting other women, and it's just bringing the best and being authentic, positive, smart, and unapologetic. I think is like a big one. Like I think women just apologize a lot for being great. It's crazy. It's like we're almost like sorry for being awesome.
I just noticed that on LinkedIn, you have to teach me how to do this, but like you've changed the URL to say e-commerce queen. And after we knew it before, but after today's conversation, I think you very much solidified that in not just our hearts and minds, but many more people in our viewers' hearts and minds. So, I mean, thank you. You definitely brought the tea, and you're unapologetically yourself, which we absolutely love. So, queen is very fitting. But with every episode of SHeCOMMERCE, we bring women into the sisterhood. You're already there, but we are paying it forward. We're amplifying voices and we're rewriting the future of commerce together. Will you take that pledge with us?
Absolutely take that pledge with you. And I said this before, but I want to make sure it's said on the podcast is I think what you're doing for our industry and for the women in our industry at all levels is so important. I think it's hard to find the time to carve out to do this type of work. And I just want to thank you both so much on behalf of everyone in this industry for doing that and finding the time, despite the fact that you're busy wives, moms, friends, sisters, daughters, everything. This is another hat that you've chosen to put on. And I wish I just had the strength and the energy to do that. But thank you for doing that on behalf of all of us. Like these are the conversations I think we all need to have, and to have this sort of platform means a lot to me. So I appreciate it. And I will continue to amplify this podcast on your voices because I think they're just as important. And so just thank you.
Oh, no, Aisha, thank you. Today, we really did have, Christina, a queen in the court. SHeCOMMERCE podcast. Bold brands, fierce women, one sisterhood.